So a JRPG could become a CRPG.
It could. However, they almost never did the isometric view like the Western RPGs do. This week's
Yeah, just tomorrow, and then it's all over. So how was your week? I know you said it was a difficult week.
Yeah, it's just been busy. Still waiting to hear about this job out in Pennsylvania. But I still went ahead and put in my 2-month notice at work so that we can move in mid-October. So if I don't find anything, we'll still go.
Gotcha. That'll be a little bit tricky, but if you got at least some stuff lined up.
Yeah. And then Catherine found out that one of our, I don't know, neighbors was being evicted. She was in a bad situation. And so we've been able to kind of get things all figured out. But Catherine was kind of taking that pretty hard. She was kind of shaken up to, I don't know, not see poverty like, right next to you, and know that somebody's being affected by, a bad situation. But she was kind of shaken up by the I don't know, horror of it.
Yeah.
She's very empathetic. So
Oh no, completely understandable. It's a terrible situation to see anybody go through, where somebody's either literally starving or literally rotting away due to just something easily as fixable as money. Where it's like we live in such an advanced society where people are still dying of poverty. I don't know. I think it's kind of silly.
Yeah, but then again, I mean, Christ was very clear. It's like you will not always have me present, but you will always have the poor.
It's true. I mean, yeah, I'm not saying that on the one side, I'm not saying that we need the poor, but at the same time, it's, Christ is in the poor. Christ is in those who are the meek, the lonely. That's why we need to go and help those people out to actually, not just bring Christ to them, but to help them out, because not just, because it's good in general, but you never know. That might be Jesus, or probably is Jesus that you're helping out.
Potentially. But no, it's kind of like the old adage, right? What was it? It's God has given the poor the rich so that they may find help, and God has given the rich the poor so that they get to heaven. Not that I'm rich or anything, but yeah, no, it was it's kind of been a bit of a hectic week, but no, hopefully everything is smoothed out by tomorrow morning, and we can at least try to get her on a better foundation, and hopefully she can, go on from there, right?
Right. You said you're going to hear back probably next week about that job?
Tomorrow, I should actually. Yeah.
Okay.
So technically tomorrow, probably about mid-afternoon, I should know whether or not we're moving in September and not October.
All right. I mean, I'll be at the school, so please still hit me up, text me, let me know what's going on.
Yeah, we'll do. So that's right. School's starting soon.
School has started. Today's the first day. Or was the first day.
Okay. Yeah, what was it? School doesn't start for Bismarck until was it 2 weeks from now? The 26th or the 28th? It's way late. I mean, the Catholic schools are starting right about now, but yeah, it's a bit late.
Jeez, I couldn't imagine when that late, just because that's gonna push school into summer, and I don't know. I'd rather have an earlier start than I would, have my battery drained by the students and be like, all right, another 2 weeks when everyone else is getting out.
Yeah. Then again, South Dakota and North Dakota, they have really long summer breaks.
Yeah.
I was very surprised when we first moved out from Washington. And I remember, what was it, ending 4th grade? What was it? It was like the middle to almost end of June. And then it was like, oh yeah, we're done by the middle of May.
Jeez.
Out in South Dakota, North Dakota. So
yeah. And don't tell the kids I said this, but I would personally just like to get rid of all of summer, have longer breaks and have more of them than a whole chunk where we're just off.
Yeah, kind of do a trimester.
Oh, I'd love to have a trimester schedule.
Where yeah, where you have like
Schedule.
what was it, 2 weeks in between each section.
In 2 weeks would be perfect. You can go on a vacation in that time. I mean, granted, one of the nice things about being a teacher is that if I wanted to get a job, I would get my paycheck from the school, and then on top of that, more income from a secondary job. But after working, how would that be, like 50-hour weeks to 50-hour weeks at the school, doing extracurriculars, or on the weekend doing like 4 hours making lesson plans and stuff to
Yep.
sometimes 8 hours a week or on the weekend. I kind of need a little bit of recharge on the summer, so maybe a little bit more breaks would help with that.
Potentially. But yeah. Yeah. How are things with you and your family? I know you guys were kind of going through. You don't have to dive into details, but you guys were going through a lot.
Yeah, Claire just recently had her surgery, so
Okay.
we are on the up and up. In
Good.
2 weeks, we're gonna meet for a post-op. Hopefully in 3 weeks we can try again.
Perfect.
Fully put
Yeah.
ourselves in the Lord's hands and just say, "Hey, whatever's right, man. Whatever's right."
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah.
Granted, that's
Well,
all you really can do with baby making.
yeah. That's. I mean, you can plan it out and try to get the timing right, but it really is in the Lord's hands there. So
You see,
I
that was
know.
our problem. We tried to put it all in our hands. We're like, what? If we plan it just right, I can have like a month left before I get out of school, so Claire can take her maternity and do that, and then I'll be off for the summer. Then I can take care of the kid. That'll be perfect. And the Lord's like, no, my schedule.
Yep. Yep. Precisely. So, alrighty. Well, on that note, welcome everyone to Those Catholic Gamers, a podcast about Catholic guys coming together to talk about video games and their Catholic faith. I am James, your host, and today I am joined by Joe.
Hey, I'm Joe. What's up?
And today, Joe and I are reviewing Baldur's Gate. And the Baldur's Gate 1, because unfortunately, I mean, the third one is out there. It's great. I haven't played it. It's on the list. But yeah, Baldur's Gate 1. Baldur's Gate is a CRPG, or a classic or a computer RPG developed by BioWare and published by Black Isle Studios from 1998. You play as a member of the Ballspawn, a child of the god of murder. Unbeknownst to you, you are constantly being tempted to fulfill your destiny of taking up your father's throne. By your actions, you influence the fate of those who live around the Sword Coast. Eventually, your adventures has you cross paths with a half-brother who wishes to take up your own progenitor's throne. The question then to you is, what path do you choose? Eventually, you do have to stop your half-brother, but do you fulfill this wretched destiny of yours and take up the throne of murder? Or do your better angels prevail?
See, when I played, I didn't really even realize that you were Ballspawn. I guess that all went over my head. I guess I was too young.
Yeah, no, the writing in this game is actually very, very good, and we're gonna be getting into this. Yeah, as a kid, I mean, the writing is so dense and there's a lot of reading involved that if you just kind of like hit buttons and you can skip through a lot of it and just really focus in on the combat, which is why Icewind Dale exists. But
well, it's funny. It's like I tried to play some Icewind Dale, but I was like, yeah, this doesn't really feel right. Where Baldur's Gate 1, even though it's so text heavy, I was a kid really enjoying a lot of that. The new, well, I say new ones, I was a kid, but I enjoyed a lot of the dialogue was really grabbing, and I don't know, it was really, really good.
yeah, no, it is. I think there's also more voice dialogue in Baldur's Gate.
Yes.
because it is more story based. So I could see how that is more engaging for especially like an 8, 9, 10 year old Joe.
And actually, that's a good question. I want to ask you. When did you first start playing Baldur's Gate?
Well, before we dive into that, I just wanted to put out a quick disclaimer. We do play on PC. Joe, I believe, is on Windows. I play on a Linux computer.
Ew,
Um,
gross.
hmm?
Oh, nothing. I definitely did not say ew, gross.
You're just a pleb and you just don't understand. Um, However, this game being out for so long has existed in many different forms. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but for the actual Baldur's Gate, it really was only released for Microsoft Windows and Mac OS. Um, or what was it? There are two releases. There is the original release from 1998, which Joe is mostly probably going to be referencing.
Yep.
And my experience is from the 2012 re-release from Beamdog. And that is how I'm able to play this on a Linux computer. So our experiences are definitely different. There were things that were added and things taken away. And if we catch during our conversation, we'll try to specify what was or what was either in the original or in the re-release.
Right, and I'm actually really curious to see what the differences are because I didn't even know there was a re-release.
Fair enough. So, and then before we dive into this discussion, we are trying to grow an audience for this podcast. So please follow, subscribe, do whatever it is on whatever platform you are listening to this, so that you are updated about new releases. Leave a review, send us an email. Our email is catholicgamerspod@gmail.com. Let your friends and family know, let your local priest know that this podcast exists so we can grow the audience, get more people to see this so that we can continue doing what we enjoy doing, which is playing video games together and then talking about them so that others can also be informed. Thank you.
Yeah, and on that note, please, like James said, send it to your family. Send this to your grandma. I mean, this is a family-friendly podcast. So if you want to send this to old Meemaw, get her into some games, we're the place to go. We'll get her playing Borderlands. We'll get her playing Baldur's Gate. She'll love it.
There you go. We hit up the three people, or the three people in Louisiana that have been listening.
Hey, Louisiana, we love you out there. I still need to go down. Your food is amazing.
I want to get some beignets. I've heard they're very
Ooh.
good. So yeah, I'm a sucker for sweet things.
I mean, sweet pastries, that's the way to go.
Yeah, it really is. So to answer your question, Joe, I was aware of Baldur's Gate since I was like 8 years old.
Okay.
However, I never played it. My friend Steven and his dad had a copy of Icewind Dale. So I grew up watching or playing that and then watching my dad play that. But that was about the extent of my Baldur's Gate adjacent Forgotten Realms video games. My dad was very much aware and participated in the D&D scare. He didn't like D&D. And he was essentially convinced by his friends to at least play Icewind Dale, and he enjoyed that. But I think what really turned him away was honestly the story of Baldur's Gate. And I mean, right on the front artwork is this giant skull with red eyes. So I could see where my dad is like, you know what, that's where I draw the line.
A little demonic. It's actually very demonic.
To an extent. But I mean, there is a difference in D&D between gods and demons. So
Right.
I mean, but
If
yeah,
you want to have a conversation about that, it's definitely, D&D kind of references God almost with AO, but that'd be a conversation for later.
Yeah. I mean, we are probably going to touch a little bit on the nature of evil and things of that nature.
Oh yeah.
At least how D&D views it, but yeah. So I mean that's really my story. I really didn't get into my PC gaming hobby until college when I had my own computer. Um, and then discovered Steam, found out that Baldur's Gate was re-released by Beamdog. I quickly grabbed up Icewind Dale and Icewind Dale 2, Icewind Dale off of Steam and Icewind Dale 2 off of GOG.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then eventually was like, yep, I would like to get Baldur's Gate. It's a classic. I remember my friend, the McNichols, the dad would play it, and he swore by it, and he's a good Catholic man. So I was like, okay, I'm going to play this. However, I did not finish it until like 2 years ago. So, but yeah, how about you? What is your backstory of Baldur's Gate?
Since my dad was, oh, good grief, high school, junior high, he was playing D&D way, way back in the day. He started with just Dungeons and Dragons, and then he kind of swore by Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. That's where no longer the classes were just elf, wizard, dwarf, and fighter. Now you could actually, have your different races and your different classes. Um, and that kind of led him eventually, I think in college. Was it college or afterwards? Anyways, he started playing Baldur's Gate. And I'd sit on his lap, watch him play Baldur's Gate. I probably shouldn't have at such a young age, but I think at 7, I got a hold of his old college computer, which didn't even have internet access on it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it could still run discs, and he actually has the whole disc sleeve, all 6 discs for Baldur's Gate. And I had a blast playing that in my room because I didn't, other than like the Game Boy, I didn't have a console in my room. So being able to play through all of Baldur's Gate, I think I was 10 by that point. That was really fun to get to know the characters, get to take the time to actually read through all of it. And it really kickstarted a love for fantasy writing, which I didn't actually find out there were so many fantasy books until I got older. And that really kickstarted a lot of my love for writing and honestly English as a whole, was because of D&D and I guess subsequently Baldur's Gate because of all the reading you have to do in the game. So that's my sort of quick, sort of long story about how I came in terms with Baldur's Gate.
Fair enough. Alrighty. Yeah. So let's touch on this. So you kind of grew up with your dad playing games.
Yes.
Um, I don't remember him, or at least in your story when we were talking about first video gaming memories, him being a huge influence. Would you say that his influence did help with bringing you into the video gaming hobby, or was it something that was more organic as a child?
No, I definitely think it was due to my dad, and how much he played games as well. Like, I don't know, I guess I didn't mention him at first just because I don't know, I didn't really think of it at the time. So, Dad, if you're listening, sorry I didn't mention you. Sorry I didn't give you a shout out. But he was the one who was playing. I guess he didn't really play the N64, but he was playing a lot of computer games back in the day. Like, I think we talked about in a previous one, but Monkey Brains was one that he played a lot of. That was a co-op or single player puzzle game where you controlled monkeys and could shift between different monkeys
Mhm.
and solve these, rudimentary puzzles with an infinite amount of monkeys in a barrel. Kind of a gruesome game, but also a fun puzzle game. Um, and he played a lot of those kind of games, and I'd sit and watch on his lap. Or like he had Midtown Racer. I think it's called Midtown Racer. Midtown Madness. Sorry, that was the name of the game. Um, and playing all those kind of games with him was a lot of the way that I started. And so seeing him playing those games kickstart a lot of my interest in gaming as well. Like if I think about the games I like nowadays, it's a lot of the games that he got me started on back in the day. Now, granted, he liked a lot more of the strategy games like Civilization. I think Civilization 3 was a big one that he played all the time, and I just never understood that one as a kid. kind of wish I'd gotten into it because I like playing some of the strategy games with you and Connor now, but not really something I play on my own ever.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. No, I kind of have what was it? Um I do have the similar memory of like sitting on my dad's lap and watching him play a video game. And that's kind of where Icewind Dale comes in a little bit. But I remember my dad was really into Myst. Like he actually had like one of those what was it, notebooks
Oh,
where he would actually like jot down the puzzle and then like try to recorrelate to, okay, this effect changes this thing and this changes that, because the entire game is interconnected, an interconnected puzzle. So but yeah, yeah,
well, that's a
cool.
question. Whatever happened to those kind of games where they'd actually come with a little pamphlet in the back of the not guide, but the player's handbook, whatever you want to call that, with an actual notes page or actual graphics of the characters that are going to be in the game, like the concept art. Whatever happened to that?
That's a good question. I would assume that part of it has to deal with just the nature of the internet.
True, you can just
So
look up stuff.
yeah, you can just quickly look up things. Games have become not areas in which we're able to like solve a puzzle or interact within a separate world. It's become more and more of a medium of a story.
Mm.
So like even the puzzle game like The Witness, right? That was like trying to bring about some sort of alluded story or something of that nature. Or what was it? Even like those first person shooter games that come out nowadays, almost all of them have some sort of single player game or single player campaign that is
Right.
trying to tell a story. So there's a heavy emphasis on narrative instead of the exploration of gaming mechanics.
I could definitely see that. Like, why does Call of Duty need a story with it? I know Call of Duty, that's like more 10 years old at this point, but you're right. It is very much more story driven with what the games will show. And I wonder, is that just cheaper? Does it hold an audience more, make it more memorable?
Yeah, it's a really good question. All things to talk about at a different time.
That's true. We're talking about Baldur's Gate. So,
Yeah.
what
So
else about
speaking
Baldur's
of
Gate?
story, um, so what was it? So you had mentioned that you really weren't aware that you were playing, well, essentially uh, the child of the Lord of Murder. When did you figure that out?
Um, let's see here. What time is it? About will this be 30 minutes ago? That's when I found that out.
Oh,
I mean,
sorry.
honestly, no.
Spoilers.
Here's the thing: like, I've beaten the game 3 times. I guess I never really figured that out because it's just more. I understood like I was brothers with the guy, and it's like, oh, we got to go defeat him. And he was talking about like his father's throne. So I was like, oh, my father must be like some king or something. Oh well, must be some evil king. Didn't know he was the king of hell. Sorry, that'd probably be if it's Baldur. That'd be the abyss, if I remember right.
That depends. But yeah, no, your father is Baal, the Lord
Baal.
of Murder. Uh, but yeah, no, it's a interesting story. What I find very very fascinating is really the beginning. Where
Mhm.
it's like, okay, you're off, you're gonna go have this first adventure ever, and then you walk into what was it? It's almost like a stable, right?
Yeah.
You have your character walk into a stable, and this assassin comes out of nowhere, and the game basically says, "Okay, let's see if you knew how to set up a character or not."
Which is honestly
Like,
pretty good.
yeah. I mean, that's going back to the more classical game designs, right? They're not really pulling punches. They really want you to be immersed in how your character is built, um, and understand the systems of the game. And essentially, this first assassin is that test. So, did you survive? Did your first character survive that test?
Oh, I can't remember if they did or not, but yeah, you're completely right. Where a lot of those older games, especially for that one, it's important because if you were to make it, like, let's say you went through all the agonizing hours of re-rolling the dice several times to get the highest rolls, and you made a crud character, I couldn't imagine playing several hours in of like cutscenes in the new video games and other stuff like that just to have a crappy character and to really suck at the game. Because the game didn't pull its punches in the very beginning; it was all a tutorial.
Yeah, you
Kind of
almost
reminds me
like
of,
soft lock yourself.
yeah, basically you soft lock yourself. I kind of think of like Dark Souls. Think about if you played Dark Souls and if the first boss was easy, but the rest of the game was the exact same. The expectation of like, I can beat pink skeletons. This is no big deal. And then you get to that first area, Firelink Shrine. That would be an absolute nightmare. Walk into the graveyard and just seeing the skeletons, be like, I beat pink skeletons. White skeletons should be a blast. Just getting utterly destroyed. I'm glad that all of those older games didn't hold back their punches and they really let them fly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're not really worried about returns.
That's true. They made the game. It's out there.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, this, like, as most of the games that we are currently reviewing that are on the list, I mean, Baldur's Gate is known or it is on the list of, like, best game of all time, and for good reason. This, like, the story is well written, being from the Forgotten Realms universe, which is Dungeons and Dragons. They're utilizing the advanced D&D breakdown and rules. Essentially, really, Baldur's Gate was the prime example of, can we take D&D and put it on a computer?
Oh, 100%. And actually, on that point, while making characters for Baldur's Gate and then later Neverwinter Nights, I would actually use my dad's player's handbook to design characters and be like, okay, so if I wanted somebody who was really, really good with a bow, what class would I need? What armor would I need? What things would I need? And I would use that instead of going online. Even like modern, I would still go back to those player handbooks, and that shows a direct correlation between making a game that does resemble its source material. If I can use a player's handbook and make a good character, oh, that's a testament right there.
Man, that would have been really nice to have when I was building characters in Icewind Dale. Yeah, no, my dad and I had no idea what things did with what, and I mean, that points to a slight misstep. I think with the game is they're assuming people pretty much already know, or
Right.
either know advanced D&D with the rule set, or are aware of the story and how things work. And so for people who had no experience or interaction with Thaco and the oh gosh, the strength, constitution, dexterity traits and things of all that, and how everything interconnects, and as your character improves and grows in their class, there's extra things going on. You can really dive into the explanation and the discovery of what your character is, and and all of that to really dive into the story and engage with this material is just non-existent if you don't have that knowledge.
Right. I mean, in D&D, we call that min-maxing, when you figure out just exactly what traits to get. And, knowing, hey, if I take the ranger class, on level 4, I'm going to get to dual wield or something like that. So I know that early on, in Baldur's Gate, you're going to get this magical sword. Well, make sure to get 2 of them because you're going to be dual wielding later. And I can imagine if you don't know that, that makes the game a whole lot harder because now you got to backtrack to get something that you missed, or you entirely miss something because you just don't know you need it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what was it? The story here, though. Let's talk about that a little bit. So you are whisked away from the place that you have grown up in, or you've been told that you've been grown up in, which is Candlekeep.
Candlekeep. So peaceful.
That it is. And you wanna dive into the story a little bit, or what the plot, how that all unfolds?
Yeah, I'll try my best. It might be I'll try my best. So
just the bullet points.
Okay, just the bullet points. So you start out, you are the apprentice under a wizard. He is not your father. He is just a mentor. He has to go deliver a letter, so you go with him. And in the middle of delivering a letter, he gets murked. He's killed. I always went back to go collect his stuff, and I always hope he killed a lot of people. Great apprentice I was. And then as you're going along your quest, you are meeting new friends, trying to get into Baldur's Gate because you need to deliver that letter and find out what's going on. And you find out there's actually a plot against the whole entire realm around Baldur's Gate where the iron has gone bad, which I think is a fantastic idea just in general for your weapons, because in the beginning of the game, your weapons constantly break. And you don't know why. Later you find out it's because they're making bad steel, and actually somebody's, I don't know why I think this in my head, but I always think like they're poisoning the steel. I guess they've got a vial of
that's exactly what's going on. They're like, well, they're either intercepting the iron and putting stuff in it, or they're actually like almost like poisoning the ground.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah, putting in the water and letting it leach in. That might be it.
Yeah.
But once you discover that, you take your findings and you actually are the one who destroys the syndicate that's trying to go and poison it. I think it's the bandits who are the ones not behind it, but the ones who are doing the poisoning. Later on, you try to get back to Baldur's Gate, and everybody's a little strange, a little rough around the gills. Turns out, not displacer beasts. What am I thinking of? Doppelgangers have infiltrated Baldur's Gate and replaced all of the important people with themselves. So you have to figure out that, hey, that person I talked to isn't actually Dave from accounting. It's a doppelganger trying to take his place. After that, my memory's a little foggy because that's about the time where either I get bored of a character and make a new one, or I start playing something else. Like I've said, I've only beat the game 5 times, but I've definitely played a ton of the games making new characters and stuff. So do you want to take it from here?
Yeah, no, it's a long game. It's the story itself with one character without any companions, because that's how I got through the story, is like 30 or 40 hours.
Wait, you didn't play through with companions?
No.
Oh,
wait, no, I did. I played on story mode, which basically makes it impossible for you to die.
Oh,
yeah. But even then, the companion side quests and stuff, I pretty much ignored it. I tried to just get through the story because I knew how in depth this was, and it still took a really long time. Yeah. So what was it? You find out that doppelgangers have infiltrated the Baldur's Gate hierarchy, and there is a group called the Flaming Fist that also are aware, and so you're trying to help them out. Eventually, you actually do go back to Candlekeep to kind of warn people that things are going on, and it turns out that Candlekeep has also been completely taken over by doppelgangers. So everyone that you were saying goodbye to has been I believe, like knocked unconscious because doppelgangers can't, if I
Keep their
remember
form.
correctly, they can't keep their form unless the person is alive. So eventually you save everybody there, you go into Baldur's Gate, you find out that the person who killed your mentor slash protector is your half brother, and he is behind all of this madness of the poisoning of the iron to grow wealth so that he could join the, what was it? It's almost like the Fabulous Five kind of. It's like
They're rich
the
people.
Magnificent Seven Lords of Baldur's Gate or whatever, and that you two both share a lineage. You are both offspring created during the times of troubles. Who are so your father is the dead god Baal, the Lord of Murder. Your half brother has been actively trying to build up his power and essentially find the other ball spawn, kill them because there can only be one to take the throne. And either, I mean, if you die, you lose the game. So spoilers, have to kill your brother, unfortunately. And yeah, so you protect or you kill him, and then the question is, what will you do after that? You've protected yourself, but you find out that there are other ball spawn out there. It just wasn't just the two of you. So the question then is related to the person. What do you do? Do you try to push off this like incessant desire to murder, or do you give in? Which actually is kind of it's a fun play off of the experience development in the game, because one of the main ways that you gain experience in this game is by going out and killing the bandits.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And you become more powerful, right? So it turns out this whole like really cool idea that what's that pixelated game that came out like in 2014?
Undertale.
Undertale's idea, that was Baldur's Gate.
They've already done it.
It was already done. Now they took it to, or he, what was it, Fox or whatever his name is? He took it to the
Toby
other.
Fox, yeah.
Yeah, he took it to the other extreme of, well, what if you were provided a different option?
Right.
Right. But talk about an excellent way of like really diving into the story and bringing in active gameplay and allowing for these two things to develop and tell a story.
Most certainly, yeah. I guess I never realized that, growing up, and I guess since 40 minutes ago, that by killing people you were fulfilling your role as Bahal's spawn. So that makes a lot more sense in the game about the experience, which you can still get experience through doing quests, but I think that is the best way of making experience, is going out and either finding choice players to murder or whatnot, which actually kind of makes me think. I'm trying to remember the character's name. Outside that first town you get to, a little bit north of it, I think it's the second town. There's a really annoying character. I think his name's like Nabble or something like that.
Yeah,
Who's
he's like a
constantly...
chaotic evil mage or something like that.
No, I'm talking about the he's like the village idiot, and he's like constantly trying to talk to your character over and over.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy.
He stops you every, oh gosh. It's like a solid 5 or 7 minutes where the game is just trolling you and is trying to coax you into just saying, whatever, I'm done with this, just kill the character. And actually, in the end, you get
like 1,000 experience points.
You get 1,000 experience points. I think you also get maybe some sort of item. And he basically says, wow, man, you're really patient. Like, good job for not killing me or something like that.
Basically.
So
you're the first one not to throw rocks at me.
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh, that's really, really good. Well, speaking of the NPCs, what about the companions? There are quite a few companions in this game.
Yeah, I'm looking at the list right now. I think they're absolutely fantastic. Every single one of the original ones were written very well. Like each of them have their own discernible traits. They feel like real people. If somebody was like role playing D&D, this feels like somebody's character. Um, that they role played. It feels like not just like somebody role playing as their character, but it feels like what somebody describes their character as. If that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Where
Okay.
some of those newer ones, like the enhanced edition, oh, I don't know. We'll probably talk about them a little bit more in a second. But the original, the OG ones, pretty clutch.
Now, I don't know this. Do you know if Minsk, Minsc, was he an original or was he an add-on?
He was an original.
Okay.
Minx and Boo are an original. Minx being the ranger and Boo being the the giant dwarf hamster from space.
Yeah, the giant dwarf space hamster. Me and my hamster. Oh gosh, what is the quote?
Let's see if I can pull it
It's
up
like
here.
me and my hamster something.
Go for the eyes, Boo. Go for the eyes.
Yeah, that's it. What else? Oh gosh. Oh, it's what was it? Stand here now, so my hamster can get a good look at you, or something like that.
Or one of his top quotes is "Live by the sword, live a good long life."
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Oh, it's miniature giant space hamster.
Hmm.
That's Boo. He became friends with after taking one too many blows to the head. Oh, Boo. Oh, Minx. Like such a good character too, with just how good hearted he is. Like basically the original himbo, but
I don't know what that is.
funny. A himbo in modern times is basically think of a Captain America. I guess Captain America's kind of smart, but um the dumb idiot, but he's really burly, kind heart.
Okay, sure, sure. I mean, he's also your chaotic good character, right?
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, he's a ranger, so most rangers are chaotic good. Um, and actually, with all that being said, maybe we should dive into alignment a little bit here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, do you want to just explain that just a little bit here?
Yeah, so in D&D there are 9 different alignments. You've got how do I want to put it? There are 3 different categories you can be in each one of the different alignments. So there's lawful, which means you follow the laws. You stick to whatever code is set by that order, and that can be different stuff for different places. Because if let's say you're following the pirate code, well, sometimes that's a little more chaotic, but if you are following that written code, that is still lawful. Now, granted, it's more or less going to be your agreed upon laws within whatever society it is. Like, let's say you have a vampire who's following a very lawful evil code. It's still lawful, just not a good law. Then you've got your neutral. This is middle of the road. They don't necessarily have to follow the laws, but they are not chaotic, which leads me to the next one is chaos. Chaos is a lot of people I like to say would play chaotic stupid, where it's I'm gonna light the stuff on fire. I'm gonna be lol random. I'm gonna do the weirdest stuff because that's what chaotic is. And here's the thing: that's not chaos. That's just being dumb. What I interpret chaos is more living your own code. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you make up your rules for yourself. If that means stealing some guy's hat, or not hat, sorry, but let's say stealing from the rich and giving to the poor, that is chaotic because you're not following any laws, you're breaking laws, but you're doing something for the good. Or in an evil situation, like chaotic evil, maybe your goal is to um double cross some kobolds who you're working with because you need that money in the end. So you do what's right for you and yours. So maybe it is to give it to the village, but maybe you're the leader of that village as a chaotic evil player. Um, and I guess going down the list would be good, neutral, and evil. So you could be a lawful good character. That'd be more like your paladin. You could be chaotic good, like a Robin Hood. True neutral would be more like your, and
Druids.
that's be like right in the middle. Yep, that'd be like your druids, where I guess technically it could be lawful because they're following the laws of nature, but does nature actually even follow many laws? It's kind of more dictated by, I guess, nature. Nature is nature. Then you've got your evils, and that's your, people want to rule the world, create more evil spawn who kill people. Good stuff. Not good stuff.
Yeah, so what was it? D&D kind of, or when it comes to the morality of something, it's good, neutral, or evil, and it's kind of like, what was it? Good being, are you doing things for others? Neutral is very much the what is the nature of the thing, and then evil is doing things for your own benefit.
Right. How can you get ahead in the end?
Yes, precisely. Which, I mean, kind of ties into a Christian understanding.
It's like a loose understanding.
Yeah, I mean, when you use philosophical terms like good and evil, my Thomistic brain kind of goes, okay, well, there's really only one thing, right? Because all things reflect God's goodness, and that is what we call good. So we can call, a beautiful work of art good. We can call the Grand Canyon good, good and beautiful, maybe. And then when we see things that are absent of that good, then we call them evil, right? So evil in the Christian and Catholic sense is not a thing in itself, but is the absence of good. So, what was it? One might be able to argue that, just because one gained a profit because, they sold apples to somebody, depending on, like, is the person poor? In D&D, that might have been a lawful evil action. But it's like, no, it's like I didn't swindle them. I actually maybe even provided a discount, but at the same time, we're still we have certain rules and rules to follow, right? Maybe eventually they come back around and you donate apples later, but just because you earned a slight profit on one thing doesn't make it evil.
Right. And D&D definitely suffers from, not talking like Dungeons and Dragons, the RPG. No, yeah, RPG. More like Baldur's Gate. Unfortunately, you're tied to what a programmer's understanding of morality is.
Yep.
I'd say Baldur's Gate does a pretty good job about, standard fare of this is a good action, that's a bad action. I've played some pretty bad ones though, where you can definitely tell the designer of the game, they have a very skewed perception of reality. I'm trying to remember.
Or they have an agenda.
Oh god, the agenda
Yeah.
ones get on my nerves.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think it
Absolutely.
was some Kingdom game. I'm gonna try to see if I can find it here quick. It was Pathfinder. Here you go. Pathfinder Kingmaker. Absolutely terrible on the morality side, where literally you have evil people living in your village that you're the king of because you meet them along your travels, and the game designers want you to have them in there. It's like, I do not want a goblin and an orc who are evil in my town. Get them out of here.
Yeah. Don't they eventually leave if you get too high of a that I mean Pathfinder Kingmaker is on the list too. So
Oh, sorry. Little
no, it's fine.
teaser for you guys there.
It's fine. It's probably going to be like a year or two from now, but whatever. Yeah, so I mean, what was it? Any other companions that really stick out to you?
Oh man. Let's see here. I would love to absolutely just talk about every single one of them because they're, like I said, they're each unique. But
Yeah.
some ones that stand out to me, Brawen is definitely the cleric you always got to go with. She is a cleric who got frozen by a basilisk, so she is encased in stone, and a carney is trying to swindle people into looking at her, but you can go by with a scroll of stone to flesh and resurrect her basically from stone and reanimate her into what she was beforehand, and she'll join your team. Diney here is a really cool one. She is, I think Minx is sworn to protect her. So Minx's whole quest is you've got to go protect Diney here, who's a really high-powered mage, who's being controlled, or not controlled, but captured by the Gnolls, who are like a half hyena, half man, evil hybrid.
Okay. Interesting. I didn't know about the stone person, and that's one thing about this game, right? We'll dive into the gameplay a little bit. There are so many routes.
Oh yeah,
there are so many side quests, and just doing little things. This is kind of a time before like random, or like having set random things happen.
yeah.
But yeah, no, the writing of this game is very, very in depth. But yeah, how would you explain like the just regular gameplay of this game?
I would say it's a lot more strategy based. Once you actually know how to make the character, you know what you're doing, because you can quick save at any time. You can pause at any time. So the game really rewards you for pausing and selecting different characters to do all their actions at once. When you get higher level, of course, you can just set people on to auto do whatever they want to. Granted, the game's AI kind of stinks back in the day. Still kind of stinks for this game. But that's fine, because once you know what your party does best, it's a lot of fun. Instead of just controlling your character, which I think is kind of that's definitely a downside of Neverwinter Nights, is you only control your character. In Baldur's Gate, you control, I think it's 7 people. So yourself plus 6 people in your party, and you can tell them exactly what to do. So you can have your well, of course, you spam save all the time, and then if you see a battle coming up, your cleric quick blesses everybody and does all these different things. Your mage quick casts haste on everybody. And then as they're doing that, you're walking into combat. So there are just so many different options that you can use. It's not just you're tied to one character, the one that you make in character customization. You play as essentially all these other characters. I think that's just awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. Well, I mean, we've already kind of dived into at least like how the game works, right? I mean, it's advanced D&D, so it's second edition D&D. THAC0, what the heck is that?
What the heck is THAC0? So THAC0 stands for 2-hit armor class 0. So nowadays, yeah, I think it's 3rd edition on forward. I'm going to make a lot of people mad. They fixed rolling dice and actually battles in general and hitting people, because in the past, instead of just you roll a 20 or a d20, so that's a 20-sided dice, and then you add any modifiers onto that to see if you can hit or not. In modern edition, all you have to do is just you take their armor class. If you get a higher number than that, you hit them.
Yep. Back
in the day, oh gosh, I'm gonna botch this, I know already, because I'm kind of rusty, but you have to subtract their armor, so you have to add their armor class to 0, because instead of going down, like, let's say their armor class gets on and you have to beat that, instead better armor goes down. So if you're wearing some leather armor, that's going to be like a 5 armor class. But if you've got some chainmail armor, that's a 4 armor class. If you've got some plate mail, that's a 0 armor class. And you get to add all these benefits to it. So, you get to subtract some benefits from it, because you want a lower armor class in order to not get hit. And then you subtract whatever you roll to that, and you're hoping to get it, which is weird because it's still the higher the number, the better in old Dungeons and Dragons. So it's a lot of unnecessary math.
I was gonna say I lost. I was listening and I lost you. So I'm very glad that they don't do that anymore. Baldur's Gate 3 doesn't do that anymore. Pretty much any RPG after Icewind Dale, basically I think Planescape Torment still had THAC0, and I think even Neverwinter Nights maybe still had THAC0. But ever since then, they're like, "Oh yeah, no, let's update this."
Yeah, I mean, my dad still kind of swears by Thaco, but I I believe in the new system of it's a whole lot easier to add positives instead of here's an example. A character Thaco of 17 trying to hit a target with an armor class of 1 needs a roll of at least 17 minus 1, which equals 16 to succeed. So, and then once you start adding in like, well, my sword's a +1 sword and his armor class is actually a +2 armor, which means -2. It's convoluted. That's what it
Yeah,
is.
no, it's a bit much. So, all right. Well, I mean, other besides that, I mean, this game is very much, just kind of click on the map, characters move toward map. You can pause the game, you can give actions, you can tell people to cast spells, do complete different actions, attack, speak with characters. And it's isometric RPG, which is actually kind of a certain angle in which you're looking at the map. And speaking of the map, the graphics of this game, like this is what? This is an old game. This is like a 20.
Yeah,
This
let
is
me look
almost
at the,
this is closing in on like 26, 27 years old. It's still a really pretty game.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like even the CGI, I mean, when you compare it to the Beam one, it's not as doesn't hold up at all. As in the
Mm-mm,
Beam doesn't hold up to the old stuff.
mm-mm.
Um, it's may look kind of primitive, but it's got that old charm of games where it's pixels, but at the same time, you can create the image in your head. And the player profiles, like the character art they do for the different characters, that's where a lot of that imagination comes into. So it's like, yes, my character is some pixelated blobby mess on the screen. I can see my character profile on the side where it's just this beautiful portrait of your character. I can interject that and I can fill in the dots in my head. And a lot of it you imagine and fill it all in with the live world they make. And that's where I think that gameplay and story that they tell is so good that it helps fill in all those blanks in your head.
Yeah, absolutely. But what was it? This game, what was it? The way that they have at least the maps is very fascinating. It's something that we really don't see anymore, and that is that the background itself is basically a painting,
Yeah.
and your sprites, your physical characters within the world, are moving around on it, right? And yeah, and they do a really good job.
I definitely
So
still think it holds up nowadays. Like if somebody's played Baldur's Gate 3 and they're wondering should they play Baldur's Gate 1, I'd say yeah, go for it. I mean, do some research on Thaco first before you play.
yes,
But
absolutely. I believe the stories are not or like connected like Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. But it is still within the same area, right? It's still kind of within the Sword Coast. So,
yeah, and also some characters I briefly saw online, like they mention a lot of those older characters in the new game. So if you play the new one, going back to the old one, you'll see some characters that you remember.
yep, absolutely. All right. Let's see here. I'm gonna just skip over the sound. I mean, the music is very good.
Oh yeah.
There's atmospheric sounds as well, and every now and then you do have voice acting. It can be a bit hit or miss. It's definitely better. It's definitely better with the originals. Beamdog try to add in extra characters, and you can tell that they're added. They're the voice acting isn't as good. They almost feel kind of shoehorned in a little bit, but
Mhm.
what do you do? But yeah, I mean, Joe, overall experience. Does the game hold up? What are you thinking?
I'd say yeah. I'd say it definitely still holds up. Like I could honestly talking about it. I want to go back and play the game again. And also, it's got a multiplayer, so we could always play it through with Connor if we ever wanted to.
Ooh, that would be good.
The
I
only
don't know
problem
how
is playing
much
it
he
through
would
with
actually.
friends. Oh,
I
sorry. Go
don't
ahead.
know how much he would appreciate the game, but
Yeah, it's kind of a weird one to play with somebody else who hasn't already played it because I tried to play. I think that's why I probably didn't like 2, is just because I tried playing through with my dad, who's already played it. Um, and I could tell he wants to keep going and keep playing. But he has to wait for me to read the dialogue, or he's like, "Hey, why don't you read the dialogue? It's funny." And I'm like, "But I just want to play. I just want to click through and I can read it later."
Mhm. Yeah. No, and I mean, this all goes back to the actual strength of this game, and that is the what was it? The writing, the story of the game.
Oh yeah,
The actual gameplay itself can become quite competitive or repetitive, but if you're looking for a really interesting story about fighting against one's destiny, quote unquote, and then choosing whether or not what is good, what should I do. This is a really really good game. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and do our standard ratings of how we do things here. Or I should say, I have ripped off the USCCB's old movie rating scale from A1 to O. Joe, what would you rate this game at?
oh, let me quick get a guide up here that just has all of them. Oh, I just seen it. Okay, no, that's not it. There it is. Boo. I'd probably give it an A3. That's adults, right?
Yeah, that's basically kind of your rated M kind of game.
Uh, no, actually, probably more of like an A2 then, I would say, just because yes, it does deal with a lot of death, and that's kind of the whole entire plot of the game is around death and destiny. I still think it's really important to explore that as an adolescent, teenager coming to life. Like, is it your destiny to follow in your parents' footsteps, or should you strike out on your own? And this game, I think, does a good job of showing more of the evil versus good. Not saying that, you should base your game or your life around a video game, but I still think this is important for somebody to see and experience, especially with how good the dialogue is and how good those characters are. And heck, maybe this might spark somebody to play Dungeons and Dragons, find a good Catholic group to play with, and really let their imagination fly.
Fair enough. Yeah, I was going to. I originally had put in the notes that I was going to rate it A2. However, after kind of talking it through, if you're really diving into the story, it's definitely going to be A3 for me.
Yeah.
And the reason being is that you are dealing with this very dark story that is not always known to you right away. So it I think it's it's an excellent example of great gameplay and great story and how those two things interconnect. It's a really good example, early example of that classic RPG or the CRPG game. Like I said, it is listed on one of those like greatest games of all time lists, and for good reason.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's an interesting story where you don't have to give into into your worst or into your worst natures. You can prevail against even the dare I say concupiscence of your patronage, really,
Mhm.
or of your progenitor. You may try to stand up and say, no, that is wrong, I will not give in to that. And these choices actually do affect Baldur's Gate 2. So Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 actually are interconnected, and you can almost utilize your save file and jump into Baldur's Gate 2 because it is the continuation of the story later on, which we'll get into on a different podcast.
I'll have to play it through
So
then so we can actually talk about it.
yeah, absolutely. I need to still get it, but it's like always it's always popping up for sale for like $3.
Oh yeah, older
So
game.
yeah, once we move and get settled, and I've got a stable job out in Pennsylvania, then I might be able to devote a little bit more time into the actual playing of the games and such. So, but yeah, I mean that's on the moral sense. So Joe, you A2, right? You said A2.
Yeah, A2, A3, like if you are just playing it through, for the D&D aspect and the fantasy aspect, A2. If
Yeah.
you're really scratching the surface and really getting into it, A3.
Yeah, fair enough. And then, I mean, we've already kind of touched on the overall experience. If somebody came up to you and said, "Hey, should I play Baldur's Gate?" What would you tell them?
I would say please do. If you haven't played any games like it before, I'd say this is a good jumping in point. Even though, it has Thaco and all that, I still think it's a really good jumping in point just because the dialogue is really good. You can control so many different characters. So not only is it a role-playing game, but it's a strategy game too. And you can try out so many different types of characters without having to make a new character every single time. So I definitely think because of that, anybody can jump in at any point in time and play the game.
Fair enough.
And with that price, like on sale,
Oh,
$1 to $3.
it's
Yeah,
always going on sale. Yeah, it's an easy buy. It's going to be a lot of time, and I remember, or what was it? Pints with Aquinas just dropped a 3 hour video or 3 hour conversation of Matt talking with a English professor, and they were talking about video games. And Matt's problem with video games nowadays is they're so long.
yeah. Oh my
and,
gosh,
and
yes.
and I get that, and we will be discussing that in a later on episode of we're dads now. What how do we keep this hobby going, kind of deal.
Yeah.
Um, so, but yeah, that will be a discussion for another time. So, anything else you'd like to say, Joe?
I guess the only thing I'd like to say is, hey, if anybody plays this game, I forget the town name, but one of those first starting towns, go out in the middle of the field. I can't remember the exact coordinates, but it is just a one single pixel. There's actually some Onkeg armor stored there. So if you're playing the game for the first time, get that Onkeg armor. It's basically plate armor with half the weight. Super good. Trust me.
There you go. So, with that being said, thank you again, listener, for listening to this podcast. Once again, if you liked this episode, please leave a review, follow this podcast, let other people know that we exist. You can always email us at catholicgamerspod@gmail.com. Connor, our friend, streams. We play games on Tuesday evenings from about 7:30 till about 9. And you are more than welcome to join the conversation and see what we're up to. So his name is Fatal Condor. So it's twitch.tv backslash or forward slash, whatever it is on the URL. Fatal Condor, exactly as it sounds. But yeah, with all that being said, thanks again for listening, and God bless.
God bless you guys.